Hey guys, today I pulled out a weird little old German pocket pistol. This is a Fritz Mann. It's in 25 ACP. It was produced in the 1920s by the Fritz Mann company, obviously. The company started out making buzz saws, two-stroke engines, various sorts of just sort of mechanical metal types of objects, before they eventually decided to make some handguns, because these little pocket pistols in 25 ACP, also known as 6.35 millimeter, were really popular back in the 1920s and 30s as a vest pocket sort of concealed carry type of gun. And what Fritz Mann, the inventor of this gun, really wanted to do was make it as small as possible. So he came up with a somewhat unique locking mechanism for the gun, because what happens in a firearm normally in a semi-auto is the bullet is on its way out of the barrel when you pull the trigger. The cartridge goes off, the bullet's going out. You need some way to keep that slide from just shooting straight back instantly. There are a lot of ways to do that. Usually in these simple types of low-powered cartridges, the designers would just opt for a straight blowback, which means a heavy, bulky slide, and what keeps the slide shut while the bullet is traveling out the barrel is simply that the slide is heavy. What Fritz Mann wanted, though, he wanted something lightweight and extremely small. So rather than using something like John Browning's mechanism, which is the short recoil, the barrel and the slide travel backwards just a little bit before the barrel drops, things like that, he came up with a design where the case actually expands just a little bit. There's a groove milled into the barrel, into the chamber here. So when the gun goes off, the case expands just a little bit. It almost looks like a bulged case, which is normally a bad thing in most guns, but in this gun, that's actually what it's designed to do. The case bulges a little bit, and that slows the slide just enough for the bullet to leave the chamber, or for the bullet to leave the barrel, and then the slide reciprocates and goes backwards, and the casing is ejected. It wasn't the most reliable thing in the world, and it's definitely not in my experience. I'll get to that in shooting impressions. I've actually heard of these things exploding because of that unique locking mechanism where the case will actually rupture, I think is what happens, and all that pressure escapes instantly and the gun explodes, which is obviously not a huge catastrophe probably because it's just 25 ACP, but I would want it to happen to me. So these are actually somewhat dangerous to shoot, at least that's according to my main source of information, which is Ed Buffalo's always useful website, The Unblinking Eye. I'll put a link in the description below, but if you want to get into a whole lot of nitty-gritty details about these guns, his website is really good for that, and for a lot of other kinds of old-timey weird guns like this. It's really a great resource for collectors like me. All of these were produced in 25 ACP, which was of course the most popular cartridge for these types of pocket guns back in the day. There was also a 4mm version, which is close to 22, but it's different. It was a training version, and then there was apparently also a longer barreled one for target practice design, but I'm not sure it was ever actually sold, and it's kind of funny to even think about something this tiny and weird being any kind of target gun, but it was at least presented in a catalog at some point. This one happens to have black plastic grips. Some of the earlier ones, I believe, had metal grips. I've seen some with wood grips, but I think they're aftermarket. So I think really you're looking at, if you see one of these, it should have black plastic or possibly metal grips. Like I said at the beginning, the chief goal with this unique bulge case system was to keep the gun extremely small. He didn't want to have a heavy slide. He didn't want to have a lot of mass up here. And I think Fritz Mann did a great job at doing that. The gun is very small. It weighs 10 ounces, which is extremely light for an all-metal gun. Pull out a few different things to sort of show you the scale of this gun. First, I have just a box of Winchester White Box 9mm. You can see the gun fits on top of that just fine. Very small. Also have what, in my opinion, is sort of the standard 25 ACP pocket pistol, Colt 1908, which is a very nice gun to shoot. You can see that this thing is much smaller, and it's definitely thinner. And then finally, I always have my Beretta out, which is just sort of a very common gun that I think people have experience with. And you can see, of course, that it's dwarfed by that. This is just a little bit bigger than a credit card, is another way to look at it. And again, it's very thin, nothing to snag on anything. It's very good at slipping into a pocket if you wanted to carry a small, somewhat unreliable 25 ACP pocket pistol. One of the first things you'll probably notice, apart from the size, is just the unusual appearance. As far as ergonomics go, it's not as bad as you might think. It's not too hard to hold. Obviously, you don't have a whole lot to hold on to. I mean, I can just get one finger on it, but you don't really need a He-Man grip on here to keep a 25 ACP from jumping out of your hands. But it actually feels decent. You have to be careful about getting your hand hiked up too high, because this part here is the slide that comes back, more like a bolt, I guess. but it'll come back, and if your hand's up high, it will definitely pinch you. Talk about that in shooting impressions. Other features on the gun, you have a safety here. That's fire, or that's safe. Now it's on fire. Little ball bearing there to keep it in position. This one has a made in Germany import stamp on it, so it must have been made for export from Germany. You can also tell what year your gun is from based on the serial number, which will have the date code in the front. See right there, it says 21. That means it was made in 1921. You'll notice here that there's the magazine release, which is kind of a unique place to put it, but works okay for what it is. There probably just wasn't much space for it to put it anywhere else. Pop that out. Have a tiny little magazine here. I've seen some of them are blued, some of them have this sort of nickel finish to them. This one is original, I believe. And that's really about it as far as the controls on the gun go. Doesn't have last round hold open. Pull that open so you can see it a little bit. As far as shooting goes, I haven't had a great experience with it. It hasn't been very reliable for me overall. I believe that's probably comes down to the unique system in here, the unique delay system. It's kind of dependent on the brass casing that you're using. You know, they're expected to fill out that groove and hold the slide back, keep the slide from going back, but different types of brass manufacturers will probably have slightly different specifications on their ammo, so it's kind of hard to make it universally reliable in my opinion. And I've definitely had that happen. Lots of failures to extract, just general reliability problems. Every once in a while I'll get through a full magazine decently, and you know, maybe just be the ammo that I'm using. But I haven't ever really gotten it to work perfectly. Another thing is that when it does get jammed, trying to get it unlodged can end up with a pinched hand, because a lot of the time this thing here comes right back on your hand when you're trying to cock it. So that's not a lot of fun. Accuracy is pretty much what you'd expect from a tiny little gun like this, with an almost non-existent barrel length. Sights are also sort of par for the course with these little guns. Just a little trench and a little dot at the front that you can barely see. So when it does shoot, it'll shoot fine for, you know, you can easily keep it on target for 5 to 7 yards or so. But I'll show you the trigger pull like I always do. It's mushy, heavy. So striker fired. Cock it again. See, I'm pushing there. It's pretty heavy. I would say it's a good 10 pounds at least. Not good at all, but on these little pocket pistols, you don't want a hair trigger or something because you're just slipping it into a pocket usually. Criticisms, obviously the main one is going to be the reliability, which is caused by this weird locking mechanism. Apparently this system was employed successfully by H&K in their G3 machine guns. I don't really know much about those, but that's what I've heard, and it's great that it works for them, but at least in my experience it hasn't worked great for this gun. Also, like I said at the top of the video, some people have had their guns explode because of that malfunctioned and built up too much pressure in there with that bulge case ruptured, something like that. In conclusion, these are pretty rare. You don't see them very often. If you'd like to buy one and you end up finding one, it should cost probably between $500 and $1,200, something like that. Maybe $1,200 on the high end for something that's in mint condition. Good condition might be, you know, $800, $900, something like that. Just depends though. Nobody really knows what they are, so price is sometimes kind of up in the air. But still kind of a neat gun. It's definitely something that someone who collects oddities and small little pocket pistols should be interested in. If you do find one of these, make sure that this little plate here is in place, because what happens is when you take the gun apart, that falls out, and I've seen a lot of them for sale and they're actually missing this little tab right here. So just make sure it has that, and this little ball bearing also seems to be missing from a lot of these guns. And yeah, it's a Fritz Mann 25 ACP. See the barrel is on the bottom here. Just kind of a weird little pocket gun from 1920s Germany. So thanks for watching.